All right, you and I are witnessing peak betrayal. James is just scrolling when his fiancée pulls a seriously fast one. Out of nowhere, she calls a late-night emergency meeting, using some fake excuse about him ruining company culture just to dock his absolute entire month's salary. And to make things worse, she turns right around and hands the keys for $1 million luxury ride to her brand new male assistant. Everyone looked at James with pure pity. They totally expected him to lose his mind and throw a massive tantrum. Instead, our boy calmly packed up his desk belongings like a totally seasoned escape artist, then slapped his resignation letter right down in front of her. Bullying a colleague and just docking pay, that is not enough, James said. I am officially resigning, before those words had even settled in the room. That shiny new assistant, Hunter, hurriedly chimed in. James, how can you quit over such a tiny thing? You have been here so long, and CEO Olivia usually treats you so well. If you quit now, what will people think of her? Hunter was totally playing the good guy. Olivia had originally looked like she wanted to persuade James to stay, but hearing Hunter's little speech, her pride instantly flared up. Talk him out of it. Why should I? If he wants to leave, let him leave. I have nothing to hide. I am not afraid of gossip. She snatched his resignation letter, signed it with a flashy flourish, and threw it right back at his face. The whole crowd of colleagues stared at James, mentally grabbing popcorn, waiting for the drama to explode. But watch closely, James did not argue this time. With absolute zen, he picked the paper up off the floor. I will leave as soon as I hand over my work. But Olivia cut him off. No need. If you want out, get lost right now. She pointed straight at the door. Then, as if a sudden thought struck her, she coldly added, since you are resigning voluntarily, there is no severance pay. Seeing this brutal shutdown, a few close colleagues stepped up, desperately urging James to swallow his pride, apologize, and not act on impulse. They all knew perfectly well that this company was built from the exact ground up by Olivia and James. Back in the day when they were strapped for cash, James drank with clients until he literally threw up blood just to lock down investments. When their quotas were not met, he led the team, pulling all-nighters for 3 whole days straight. He had poured his heart, sweat, and soul into every single project. Leaving right now was basically throwing away everything he had built, but his mind was made up. James bid everyone farewell, grabbed his box of stuff, and turned to leave. But right before he walked out, he clearly caught a quick flash of complex emotion in Olivia's eyes. He knew she completely thought he was bluffing. In the past, they had fought countless times over Hunter. The absolute worst time was when Olivia chewed James out in front of everyone and gave his entire annual bonus to Hunter as compensation. James was so absolutely furious he threatened to quit back then too, but right as he was about to leave, he swallowed his pride, pretended nothing happened, went right back to sweet-talk her, and resumed working like the whole mess was just a collective hallucination. She just assumed he would convince himself to endure it all over again, but she did not realize that his patience for her had finally hit rock bottom. The very moment he stepped out of the building, a message popped up. He opened it to find a massive bank transfer from a friend. Earlier that morning, Olivia had told James the company was seriously struggling, and she needed to cut his pay. His first reaction was worrying about her stress, so our guy James immediately called a buddy to borrow $500,000. He planned to give it to her, but then he accidentally spotted Hunter's social media post. Suddenly, Olivia's true intentions hit him like a bucket of ice water. Yet, right then, he felt strangely peaceful. No heartbreak, no crazy, blinding jealousy. Maybe it was because this exact thing happened way too often. Olivia had pulled so many ridiculous stunts for Hunter's sake. James honestly started wondering if her actual boyfriend was him or Hunter. He just wired the cash back to his buddy with a quick thank you. Stepping into the parking garage, James found his beaten-up car that he had been driving for 5 years, the paint peeling off in chunks, parked right next to it sat a gleaming, brand-new Porsche, the exact ride Olivia had just Gifted Hunter earlier today. Plenty of empty spots in that garage, but Hunter just had to park right next to his junker. A totally blatant provocation. James had been with Olivia for 5 years, yet he couldn't even compare to Hunter, who had only been around for 10 months. James let out a self-deprecating chuckle. He didn't hesitate for another second. He hit the gas, leaving the company he had slaved away at for years. Ironically, the second he pulled out of those company gates, someone rear-ended him. He stepped out of his car, just in time to see Olivia and Hunter walking out of the bus shelter together. James, why did you slam on your brakes? Before James could even process the situation, Hunter marched right up, looking heartbroken at the dented front of his new car. What a shame, CEO Olivia hand-picked this for me. Olivia's face instantly darkened. James, back in that garage, I saw you glaring at Hunter's car. Tell the truth, did you do this on purpose? Did you know Hunter was behind you and slam on the brakes to get revenge? James almost burst out laughing. Here we go again, guys, just blindly pointing fingers and dumping all the blame right on his head. Hunter let out a theatrical sigh. Never mind, Olivia, let's not blame James. He lost his job because of me. It's natural he's mad at me. At the end of the day, it's my fault. If only I had paid a little more attention. As he spoke, the guy frustratingly balled his hand into a fist to punch his own forehead, but right before impact, he noticeably relaxed his hand. Olivia, of course, completely missed this absolute trash acting. She tenderly rubbed his forehead, totally doting on him. This has nothing to do with you. Stop taking the blame for everything. Then she fiercely pointed a finger at James's head. Could you try learning a thing or two from Hunter? Take some responsibility. He actually knows how to be humble. You have been working for years. How are you still this childish and arrogant? She shoved James against the wall. Once he recovered his balance, James found the whole thing absolutely hilarious. Over the past year, Hunter had stolen his credit, played dirty tricks, and framed him. Now Hunter was the humble, responsible one, and James was the childish, arrogant villain. Too lazy to waste his breath on her, he turned to leave. Olivia blocked his path again. He figured she was going to defend Hunter some more, but surprisingly, she pulled him aside and started giving a lecture. I had high expectations for you, which is why I am strict with you. Why can't you understand my good intentions? Listening to her gentle tone, James was momentarily confused. But you and I both know her game. Olivia patted his shoulder. I will revoke your resignation. Think it over carefully, then go apologize to Hunter. You're taking the blame for this crash, she demands. Whatever those repair bills end up being, pay Hunter directly. Suddenly, it all clicks for him. He shoots Hunter a look. You and I both know that guy planned this. His smug face and arrogant side. I say it all. Our hero scoffs. I'm not paying a single cent. Let the cops figure out whose fault this actually is. Mad about it, call the police. Are we done? Perfect, I'm leaving. He spins on his heel and marches off. Behind him, Olivia is stomping in pure rage. I gave you a chance, don't regret this. Oh, I definitely won't. He slides into his car and shoots his buddy a text. I quit, starting at your company tomorrow. Less than a second later, the phone rings. His friend is completely stunned. Wait, are you actually serious? He pauses, sounding totally confused. But what about Olivia? Years ago, his buddy and Olivia launched their startups right around the exact same time. His friend had massive resources and insane perks. He had promised our guy pure equity and a huge profit cut, literally begging him to join the team. Even after learning about the romance with Olivia, he bent every rule just to offer him a vice president role. But our hero said no, because during his darkest moments, Olivia basically saved his life. So for her, he gave up everything, pouring his soul into her career, pushing her company up step by step into a massive powerhouse. But get this, right now she could not care less. Honestly, after all this time, he has totally paid back his heavy debt of gratitude to that woman. There is zero reason to keep torturing himself. No, I don't Need her permission, I make my own choices now, he replies, after talking. For a bit and setting a strict time to sign the paperwork, he drives home to pack. He bought this whole place himself through installments, but every single inch of it is stuffed. With ghosts of his upcoming wedding to Olivia, he refuses to stay here. For another second, he starts by cleaning out the space under the bed, finding a stack of old paintings. The girl inside them is Olivia, sometimes looking sad, sometimes peeling an apple, sometimes just doing her makeup. These were all pieces he lovingly painted for her. She used to adore them, treating every single one like pure treasure, framing them carefully and keeping them incredibly safe. But once Hunter entered the picture, she started whining that his art took way too much time and that quick photos were just far superior. Eventually, all his hard work ended up shoved right under the bed. Now the paper is yellowed and brittle. The beautiful portraits have completely faded. He lets out a bitter laugh, dumps them into the bathtub, and strikes a single match. The flames swallow the artwork until absolutely nothing is left but a pile of dark ash, just like their romance, burned completely down to nothing while nobody was paying any attention. After that, he chucks out anything else that belongs in the trash. He actually does not own much stuff, but the entire apartment suddenly feels freezing cold and painfully empty. He throws himself onto the couch, grabs his phone, and starts hunting for a new apartment near his buddy's office. The exact second he unlocks the screen, he sees Hunter just posted a selfie with Olivia right in the company group chat. The bright background is an arcade. Olivia is holding a massive pile of stuffed animals, smiling brightly at the camera lens. Her joy is blinding. He hasn't seen her smile like that in a very, very long time. He used to take her to that exact arcade. The moment they would walk in and buy tokens, she would turn around and leaves, calling our guy childish. Now, you and I know she claims she just doesn't have the time to play such boring games with him. No time to play with our guy. But she definitely has time to mess around with Hunter. He chuckles dryly to her. Arcades aren't the childish part, he is. Meanwhile, colleagues in the group chat start kissing up immediately, praising Olivia's stunning beauty and hyping up the photographer's skills. Someone even jokingly asks about some good news to share soon. They all know he is Olivia's fiancé, yet they still dare to joke like this. Why? Because Olivia never even tries hiding her shady relationship with Hunter at the office. If this was the old him, he would absolutely throw a fit, call Olivia, and demand she set strict boundaries. But now our guy feels nothing but pure peace. He pretends he didn't see it and goes back to his apartment hunting. Surprisingly, 2 minutes later, he refreshes the chat and sees several messages get unsent. Even Hunter's original photo has suddenly vanished. He figures Olivia won't be home until super late, but surprisingly not long after. She strolls right into the living room happily chatting on the phone with Hunter. The moment she sees him, she looks a little bit guilty, but her face quickly darkens. She purposely shoots him a dirty look and pushes the bedroom door wide open to step inside. He knows she is just waiting for him to beg her. Whenever she gets unhappy at work, he would do absolutely everything in his power to apologize and completely beg for her forgiveness, even when she is clearly in the wrong. He grits his teeth and takes the full blame. He used to think he owed it to her, whether to repay a debt or just to keep this toxic relationship alive. But now he is just exhausted. He keeps his head down and continues staring at his phone. A few minutes pass. She marches out looking gloomy, asking, "Did you see the messages in the group?" "What messages?" he asks, knowing exactly what she means but not even bothering to look up. He can almost hear her let out a sigh of total relief. Nothing, just some work messages sent to the wrong chat. He finds it amusing but is way too lazy to call out her obvious lie. He can't help but wonder exactly how many things she and Hunter have been hiding from him all this time. Hunter's car is fixed. "Have you fixed yours yet?" Since our guy stays totally silent, Olivia speaks up again. He knows this is her signal, throwing him a bone to step down from his High horse, normally, he would feel incredibly relieved she is forgiving him and happily rush over to kiss her feet, but this time around, he doesn't even lift his head. It was born a junker. What is the point of fixing it? Olivia frowns. What do you mean by that? He finally looks up, genuinely confused as to exactly why she is upset. His car has been scratched up plenty of times before. Whenever he says he wants to fix it, she always tells him the exact same thing. It was born a junker. What is the point? He thinks she is about to explode, but instead she sighs heavily. I know you're still hung up on the company car thing, but Hunter has been doing some really great work lately. Giving him a car just helps retain top talent. Hearing this, he almost laughs. You and I know Olivia broke all protocol to hire Hunter in the first place. His actual work capacity is absolute garbage, and you just cannot count his daily screw-ups on both hands. On a minor scale, he orders boba for himself, while handing important clients plain tap water during meetings. On a major scale, he once sent the base cost sheet to a partner instead of the quotation sheet, completely costing the all right, get this. She claimed keeping James was less useful than keeping a stray dog. If James didn't know this company perfectly, he might have actually believed her lies. James stayed totally quiet. She reminded him they were engaged, saying the company would be his eventually anyway, so why complain over a bit of missing salary? She demanded to know why James kept comparing himself to Hunter, claiming it was all strictly business. She just didn't want the office to think she played favorites, but James knew perfectly well that this was just a pathetic excuse. Everyone at work saw exactly how Olivia treated James compared to Hunter. Take a project James spent 3 sleepless nights finishing. Olivia would suddenly rip it away, handing it right over to Hunter. He just made a slideshow, and suddenly all the credit was his, or a client James negotiated with for days, just about to sign. She would take Hunter to the dinner instead of James, and miraculously, the contract became Hunter's massive win. Stuff like this happened constantly. Over time, the whole office assumed Olivia just heavily favored Hunter over him, or worse, that she hated James. Because of this, he endured endless side glares and brutal office bullying. Olivia saw everything but always looked away. James never bothered explaining himself. If he did, she would just call them pathetic excuses. He gave a totally cold response. He told her she didn't need to explain anything. Since he was done with the company, she could do whatever. Olivia went completely quiet. Finally, she sighed, walked right up to James, stood on her tiptoes and wrapped her arms around his neck, her breath warm against his skin. She admitted she was being selfish, claiming she just wanted him to rest. She said he could start planning their wedding, asking when he would finally propose. She smiled so softly. But James had already proposed countless times. Every single time she rejected him, and it always ended in brutal fights. Now she was dangling marriage just to manipulate him. Sometimes he felt less like a boyfriend and more like an obedient lap dog. She kept around for amusement. James stayed completely silent. Olivia scratched his chin, literally petting him like a dog. She told him to stop being mad, leaning right in, deliberately trying to win him over with a kiss. But then, James caught a scent on her, a cheap cologne that absolutely belonged to Hunter. His stomach churned in pure disgust. He shoved her away forcefully, frowning in utter discomfort, and immediately grabbed a wet wipe to scrub his hands clean. Olivia looked like she got struck by lightning, totally frozen. She saw his disgust. James simply told her he was going out and needed to change. The second he finished, he turned and headed straight for the bedroom. Olivia tried following, but he slammed the door right in her face without hesitation. She screamed that he was annoying, warning him not to regret this. It seemed Olivia was actually furious this time, throwing out a harsh threat. She kicked the door and stormed off. By the time James stepped out, the living room was empty. Olivia had messaged the company group chat, saying she wanted to treat everyone to dinner, asking who wanted to tag along. Crickets, absolute silence from everyone, except Hunter, who shamelessly spammed 3 gleeful Emojis in a row. Now, you and I know she only did this to piss him off. This wasn't the first time either. Whenever she pulled this stunt, nobody else went. Only Hunter was ever eager. In the past, James would have gotten fiercely jealous, following them just to get mocked later, but now, he really couldn't care less. All right, you and I are following James today, checking a rental apartment, everything looks solid, so he pays the deposit immediately. Next up, contacting an agent to sell his current house. James bought this place with his own money and designed every single room himself, but the property deed, completely signed over to Olivia. Back in those days, they were dead broke. To make her feel secure, he drained every last penny of his savings for this house. Now that their company is massive, she probably would not even bat an eye at it. The agent insists Olivia must be there to sell the place. Since she is always busy, she has to sign a power of attorney. James tries sending her a quick text, but a red exclamation mark pops up. She actually blocked him. Classic Olivia move. Every single time they have a massive, unresolvable fight, she blocks him and leaves the house. He used to stress out over her safety, pathetically borrowing phones from strangers to call her, begging her to just unblock him. She would act like total royalty, asking if he finally realized all his mistakes. Looking back now, he told so many lies against his own conscience. Just to stroke her ego, taking a breath, he still gives her a call. Come home tonight, we have things to discuss. What is it? I am very busy. Her voice is absolute ice. James tightens his lips. We will talk later. You push me away whenever, and now you just snap your fingers and expect me to come running. James, do I owe you anything? She sneers. Is this really your big idea of an apology? Have I been way too nice lately? Did you forget how to beg for forgiveness? Exactly like the old days. He lowers his voice. I am so sorry. I was totally wrong. He has apologized a million times anyway. One more time will not kill him. Plus, this fake apology buys his precious house back. Sure enough, hearing him submit, Olivia sounds much happier. Just wait for me. She hangs up instantly. James feels completely calm now. He lists the house online, slashing the price on purpose so it sells much faster. After finishing that, he contacts Ben to sign his new employment contract. Ben is practically buzzing with hype, constantly asking if he is just dreaming. He even sets up a massive celebration dinner. James originally wanted to head home early, but since he has no clue when Olivia will actually show up, he agrees to go. After throwing back a few drinks, he hits the restroom. Walking back, he hears a familiar voice from the next room over. You and I know. He stops completely cold. Peeking through the cracked door, he sees Olivia wrapped tightly in Hunter's arms. He cannot catch every single word, but Olivia is laughing so incredibly hard. Her shoulders are shaking. Hunter takes the chance, swiftly lowering his head to kiss her right on the lips. Olivia freezes but never pushes him away. Olivia, when are you and James finally breaking up? I cannot wait to be with you anymore. Do you know how much it actually hurts seeing you with him? Do you still like him more than me? Hunter whines like a brat. Olivia opens her mouth, looking like she wants to explain, but instead just comforts him, gently patting his back like a little toddler. How could he ever compare to you in my heart? The company is just huge right now. If I break up with him and instantly date you, people will definitely gossip, and it will totally ruin your sweet reputation. Just wait a little bit longer. It will not be long. I knew it. Loved me the most. They lean against each other. Our revenge tour starts now. Other intimately, looking exactly like star-crossed lovers. Our guy just let out a sharp scoff and turned away, heading straight back to his room. He knocked back a few more glasses while the crew reminisced about the good old days. The party dragged on until early morning. You and I know what happens next. When they got to the parking garage, Ben dragged him over to a top-tier Porsche. Do you like it? Ben asked, confused. He just nodded. He figured it was Ben's new ride. He was just about to compliment the car when Ben shoved the keys right into his hand. It's yours. Your old ride is basically a fossil. I couldn't stand looking at it anymore, so I got you an upgrade. Our guy tried to refuse, but Ben completely anticipated his reaction. Honestly, I heard Olivia bought a car for that rookie. The guy has absolute garbage. Skills, but still gets a luxury ride. Obviously, you can't be doing worse than him. Speaking of which, I have seen the work that rookie produces. The design style fluctuates wildly. It is obviously plagiarized. I have zero clue how he is still employed there. Maybe it was the alcohol talking, but Ben had absolutely zero reservations about trashing Hunter right to his face. He stayed quiet. Ben wasn't wrong. Those projects were actually done by him and his team every time they were near completion. Olivia would order them to hand the files straight over to Hunter. That was exactly why Hunter's style was a total mess. Even Ben, an outsider, could spot the problem instantly, yet Olivia remained completely oblivious. No, I cannot accept this, he insisted. Ben just pretended to be furious. I am not gifting it to you, it's coming straight out of your paycheck, buddy. Don't waste my good intentions. Our guy laughed, totally at a loss for words. If the price of this car was actually deducted from his paycheck, he would be working for free for years. He knew it was just Ben's sneaky excuse to give him the ride. He stopped refusing, thanked his bro, and chatted a bit more before they both called designated drivers to take them home. He figured Olivia wouldn't be home yet. Surprisingly, the exact moment he opened the door, he spotted her sitting right there on the living room sofa. Where did you go? Didn't we agree to meet? Do you know how long I've been waiting? She demanded angrily. He was genuinely surprised. Usually, whenever she hung out with Hunter, she didn't bother coming back until 3 or 4 in the morning. Coming home this early was super rare. Thinking about the nasty scene of her and Hunter making out in that private room made him nauseous. I was out eating with a friend, he said, walking straight into the living room and pulling the power of attorney documents straight from his bag. Before he could take 2 steps, Olivia suddenly blocked his path, frowning hard. You drank, didn't I tell you that you're not allowed to drink when I'm not home? No, he replied, completely unable to hold back a freezing cold smirk. You mean I'm only allowed to drink when I'm helping you schmooze your corporate clients? He said nothing else. Olivia seemed to connect some invisible dots, suddenly smiling super smugly. You're still mad that I hung out with Hunter, aren't you? If you don't want us hanging out alone, just say it. There's absolutely no need to drink yourself silly over it. You're overthinking it. My drinking has absolutely nothing to do with either of you. He just grabbed a chair, sat down, and slid the power of attorney right toward her. Take a good look at this. Olivia raised an eyebrow, her tone practically dripping with pure arrogance. What's this? A letter of guarantee? Let me tell you, apologizing right now is way too late. I'm still furious about this afternoon. Don't think these little tricks would win his forgiveness, but you and I know James just found it absolutely hilarious. True, in the past, whenever he made her mad, he used to bend over backward to make her happy, even writing literal letters of guarantee. Looking back, sure, she was wrong, but James was the guy who willingly handed over his dignity on a silver platter just for her smile, not a guarantee letter. James said casually. Olivia just raised an eyebrow. Oh, now I'm curious. Right as she was about to open that document, her phone rang. Checking the caller ID, her eyes completely lit up. Wait a second, I need to take this. She picked up the phone. Director Olivia, I was driving and I hit someone. What do I do? I'm so scared. Hunter's pathetic, whining voice echoed right through that phone speaker. Olivia's face instantly tensed up. Send me your location. I'll be right there. She stood up to leave, completely disregarding James's existence. He quickly took 2 steps forward, blocking her path, and pushed the document closer. Handle my business first. This needs your signature and it's urgent. Olivia paused, looking up at James and sighing heavily. James, can you have a little empathy? His situation is an emergency. The way you're acting right now, fighting for attention like a jealous child, it's really ugly. James laughed out loud. He's ugly. What about Hunter driving drunk? James couldn't be bothered to argue with her. He just tapped the document near her hand, showing absolutely no intention of backing down. Olivia didn't say another word. She just flipped to the final page without even checking the actual contents. Before she could read a single word, Hunter's piercing shriek came through the phone. "Why are you hitting me?" "Olivia, don't worry, I'm on my way," she consoled Hunter while hastily scribbling her signature on that last page. She threw on her heels and practically sprinted out the door. Watching her panicked retreat, James couldn't help but ask, "Aren't you even going to look at what you signed? What's there to look at? What kind of surprise could you possibly bring home? It's probably just some minor contract. As long as you check the terms, it's fine." She marched out without looking back. We've all seen this coming, right? Previously, to make her happy, he'd secretly negotiate massive partnerships. At first, she was absolutely thrilled, but as the company grew, she started looking down on the smaller companies she once begged for business. Whenever James brought home a contract, she'd scrutinize every single clause, completely terrified of loopholes. But now, just because she was so worried about Hunter, she didn't even care what she was signing. But hey, that worked out perfectly for James, saved him lots of hassle. Olivia didn't come home that entire night. During that time, Hunter sent James an absolute barrage of text messages. "James, I know you saw everything outside the private room today, but you must know by now Olivia's heart is always with me. If I make one phone call, she drops everything to rush to my side. You should just back out gracefully while you still can. Otherwise, things are going to get really embarrassing for everyone." James just laughed. It really seemed like Hunter had tossed away all his fake innocence. James knew full well that sending these screenshots to Olivia would be totally useless. She spoiled him way too much. Even if she saw the provocation, she'd just accuse James of trying to drive a wedge between them. But James also wasn't generous enough to let this guy constantly taunt him. No reply from Hunter. Congratulations, but if the day comes when Olivia gets completely sick of him, he should take his own advice and bow out. James knew the message didn't carry much real venom, but the second he hit send, Hunter definitely felt the sting. Sure enough, total silence followed. James just went to sleep early. The very next morning, James fired off the signed legal papers to his real estate agent. By that same afternoon, a buyer showed up. The guy absolutely loved the prime location, the layout, and the price tag. His only hesitation was why James seemed in a massive rush to sell. A place this amazing, priced so cheap, is something horribly wrong with it, the buyer asked carefully. James just gave him the short version. He had bought it for his upcoming wedding, but he and his fiancé had completely called it off. The buyer shot James a deeply sympathetic look. The yard, the decor, clearly it was all designed specifically for a woman's taste. Selling is smart, drops the emotional baggage. James stayed completely quiet. Olivia was impossibly picky about houses. It had taken James 3 long months and hundreds of house tour to find this place. Even the interior design was perfectly customized to her exact tastes. Only now did James finally realize that for the past few years, his entire world had revolved around her. The buyer was incredibly decisive. By that evening, they signed the contract, and he quickly scheduled the official handover for 2 days later. Coincidentally, James was also moving out in just 2 days, returning home after signing everything. The very first thing James spotted was a pair of men's dress shoes by the door. His usual slippers were totally missing. "You and I know exactly what this means." James grabbed some cheap hotel slippers and walked right in. Almost instantly, he heard Hunter's voice ringing out, "CEO Olivia, you are doing it all wrong. Let me teach you." James walked to the kitchen doorway and spotted the two of them standing by the sink. Hunter had his arms wrapped tightly around her from behind, gripping her hands in an unbelievably intimate posture. The guy was wearing James's own loungewear and slippers, totally playing the role of the actual man of the house. Meanwhile, Olivia wore the matching couple's set, showing zero discomfort with his closeness. They looked so relaxed and happy laughing together about whatever they were discussing. Normally, if James got even slightly close to her while she cooked, she would immediately complain that she wasn't used to it. She always claimed she just wasn't a physical person, but watching this, was it just James she couldn't stand? He let out a dark scoff. Olivia suddenly turned around right at that exact moment. Seeing James, she completely froze, instinctively wriggling out of Hunter's grip, looking totally caught in the act. "Why are you back now, James?" Found that incredibly hilarious. So James being inside his own house was the problem. "Sorry, James, this is simply how I wash vegetables back home. Please do not misunderstand," Hunter smirked. His words sounded super apologetic, but the look he gave James was full of smug, mocking scrutiny. The guy looked like he was desperately waiting for James to snap in a jealous rage. Now, you and I know the old James would have blown up entirely, fought with Olivia, and screamed for Hunter to get out. But James was completely used to it. Plus, he was leaving soon anyway. The house was sold, the deposit was sitting pretty right in his bank account. He honestly could not be bothered. "Well, you two look busy. I will just head to my room." James spoke totally calmly, walking toward the bedroom. Hunter looked completely stunned, eyes flashing with confusion. He clearly did not understand James's cold reaction at all. Olivia had probably braced for his anger. Seeing James totally unbothered, her tone shifted. It sounded forced as she broke character, explaining, "Today is Hunter's birthday. He really wanted to celebrate it with us, so I brought him here." Honestly, the old Olivia would never explain herself. She used to just glare at James and coldly snap, "If you don't like it, leave." James just chuckled to himself. What a total joke this all was. The moment he stopped caring, she suddenly started explaining things. Insane, right? She couldn't even remember his birthday, but she somehow perfectly remembered Hunter's. "Well then, have a great time," James said casually, walking right into the bedroom. Almost everything in his room was already packed up. All the non-essentials had already been moved to his new rental. Only some clothes and a few books remained. He was debating doing one final sweep today when the bedroom door was suddenly pushed wide open. Hunter walked right in, holding a small slice of cake, scanning the room with a mocking sneer. "Wow, your room is way emptier than the last time I was here. Seems you're very obedient, prepping your little retreat." James just ignored the guy, keeping his head down to text Ben about the move. Being ignored made Hunter's face go dark. He took a few aggressive steps. "I'm talking to you. Are you completely deaf?" James shot him a cold glance. "Why care so much? It's not like you get to live here anyway. For whatever reason, that simple sentence absolutely enraged the guy. His expression turned toxic as he raised a hand, trying to grab James by the collar. Before he could even react, footsteps echoed from the hallway. Hunter instantly threw the cake onto the floor and dramatically collapsed right to the ground, faking pure terror. "Hunter, what happened?" Olivia burst through the door, shoving James aside to quickly help Hunter up. James stumbled back a few steps, stepping right onto a sharp, jagged piece of broken ceramic plate. It pierced straight through his thin slipper and deep into his heel. Fresh blood began pooling immediately, but Olivia, she didn't even seem to notice. She was way too busy looking utterly heartbroken over a microscopic, bloodless scratch on Hunter's little hand. "I'm sorry, CEO Olivia. I made James mad again. It's my birthday and I just wanted everyone to share some cake, so I brought him a piece. I didn't know he'd hate it this much." Hunter whined, his eyes turning red as he stared up at Olivia with pure, fake innocence. If James wasn't the guy standing right there, he might have actually believed this total Oscar-worthy performance. But James had never said he hated cake. In fact, because he rarely got to eat birthday cake growing up, he completely loved it. He mentioned it yearly on his birthday. Olivia used to laugh at him, saying she'd never met a boyfriend who loved cake as much as he did. But with Hunter around, Olivia had clearly suffered sudden amnesia regarding his preferences. Like we said, he totally loved it. He mentioned it every single year on his birthday. Olivia used to laugh at him, swearing she'd never met a guy who craved cake as much as he did, but with Hunter in the picture, Olivia clearly suffered total amnesia regarding his likes and dislikes. Suddenly, she pointed a furious finger right at James. Just because you don't like it doesn't mean you can throw plates and push people around, James. I thought you had finally learned to behave. I didn't think you'd still be pulling this absolute crap. Apologize to Hunter right now. Otherwise, I wouldn't dare marry a jealous, bitter man like you. Let's just break up. She glared at him fiercely. Her aggressive posture was absolutely hilarious, really. It reminded him of what he'd just heard. Outside that private room, back then, during their absolute worst fights, Olivia would always weaponize breaking up, and James was never willing to let her go. He was always the first one to cave, whispering sweet apologies, even once pathetically dropping to his knees, begging her to stay. He always assumed a breakup wasn't what she truly wanted, just her ultimate weapon and his obvious cue to step down. Only much later did he realize she probably wanted to end things all along. Hence why it was always on the tip of her tongue, but whatever, James had already planned to dump her anyway. Even if she hadn't said it today, he would have. Seeing him stay totally silent, Olivia assumed he was scared. Her tone softened considerably. You've been acting so mysterious these past few days. You're probably busy preparing for the wedding, right? I know you don't actually want to break up now. Apologize to Hunter. But before she could finish that patronizing speech, James cut her off. I agree to break up, that smug smile forming on Olivia's face froze instantly, her eyes filled with total incomprehension. What did you say? You wanted to break up? I agree. His voice was dead calm. He thought she'd be thrilled that he finally agreed, but he didn't detect a single ounce of joy in her tone, just pure shock and anger. James, are you out of your mind? You want to break up over something this trivial? Her eyes were wide with absolute disbelief. James was genuinely baffled. Didn't she just suggest it? He agreed, so why play the victim? You and I can see Hunter seemed confused by the sudden turn of events too. He gently tugged her sleeve. CEO Olivia, did James just ask for a breakup? Should we wait for him to finish? Shut up, Olivia snapped furiously. This is between him and me. You have no right to speak. That was probably the first time she ever raised her voice at Hunter like that. The guy was stunned into absolute silence, mouth hanging open. Olivia seemed to quickly realize her harsh outburst and softened her voice, whispering to him, I'm sorry. I didn't mean that. Go wait for me outside. I don't want to drag you into our issues. Hunter's eyes were red, clearly unwilling, but the kid was smart enough to know he couldn't afford to piss Olivia off right now. He obediently left the room. Once Hunter was gone, Olivia took a deep breath, just as she was about to speak, her eyes darted to the floor. Her voice softened up. Your foot is hurt. Why didn't you say anything? I'll go get a bandage. She walked over to the bookshelf. Now, you and I know this was just her trying to change the subject. Whenever they stumbled onto a topic she didn't want to hear, she would use caring about him to forcefully derail the entire conversation. In the past, his heart would soften, drowning in the illusion that she still cared. Then the original issue would just be buried deep down, but those conflicts were never actually resolved. They just rotted away inside him, waiting to be dug up later, uglier than before. Where are the bandages? I remember they used to be right here, Olivia muttered, rummaging through the shelves, but she seemed to have totally forgotten that the last time she stepped into his room was 2 years ago. He had a 104-degree fever, and she ran off to go on a date with Hunter. Since then, James moved the medkit to make it way easier for him to reach. James, why is there so little stuff in your room? Olivia finally realized something was very, very wrong. You and I are watching. James snap. No more secrets. I sold this house, found a buyer, and the keys are handed over in 2 days. You should get someone to move your stuff tomorrow. Olivia desperately tried to compose her face. She looked like she was about to completely detonate, but instead, she just chuckled. Stop messing around. Half this house is mine. Without my signature and my permission, how could you possibly sell it? Look, James, I know you're angry. I will tell Hunter to stay away from you. Just stop throwing these childish tantrums. She honestly still didn't believe him, so James grabbed the sales contract off the desk, handing it over. Right on the back, her signed power of attorney. The real estate agent confirmed this. Form is all it takes. You signed this the exact day Hunter got his DUI. Remember that. If not, whatever. It is completely legally binding either way, he said. Olivia snatched the contract, flipping to the final page, her entire body hitched. A brief pause, and then she screamed at him like a total lunatic. Who gave you the right to sell my house without permission? James just sneered. He had never taken a single dime from the company. He bought this house with his own hard cash. It's perfectly fine for me to sell it, he noted. Besides, I recall you buying Hunter a shiny new house in the suburbs recently. It's not like you're homeless. Move there, morally and legally. James selling this house was absolutely bulletproof. Olivia stood there completely speechless, her face draining of color. You'd think this was the moment she would just gracefully accept the breakup, right? But nope. Surprisingly, she forced herself to calm down, explaining in a low whisper, that suburban house, I wanted to give that to you as a gift. I didn't buy it for Hunter. Adding his name was just to make him feel like he belonged somewhere. If it bothers you, I will remove his name tomorrow. All right. We have been together for so many years. How can you throw away all our history like this? James, I know you are furious right now. Just calm down. We will talk about this tomorrow. With that, she simply turned and left. This was her classic manipulation. Whenever their fights hit an absolute boiling point, she would just act like she still loved him, telling him to calm down. In the past, James would hypnotize himself, ignoring the red flags, and eventually he'd be the one crawling right back to apologize and fix things. He truly loved her, but only later did he realized she had completely checked out of their relationship ages ago. James just couldn't bear letting go of all those years together, constantly foolishly thinking that if he just swallowed his pride and got past this massive hurdle, things would actually get better. But years passed by and absolutely nothing improved. It was really all just pathetic wishful thinking on his end. Olivia probably assumed he was still wrapped right around her little finger, but she was dead wrong this time. Whatever feelings he had left were entirely crushed by her endless cycle of massive disappointments. After she finally left, James swept up the shattered ceramic pieces on the floor and bandaged his bleeding foot. By the time he walked out, Olivia and Hunter were long gone. The cold leftover food still sat on the table. A half-burnt candle lay totally extinguished on the floor. James always did all the house chores because he couldn't bear letting Olivia lift a single finger. Over time, she got perfectly used to it. He didn't feel like cleaning up tonight. He figured he had to hire professional cleaners before handing over the keys anyway. Let the pros handle it tomorrow. Let's see what happens next. Let's watch what James does next. He washed up and slept, but early the next morning, as he stepped out of his room, the place was completely spotless. Olivia was just standing there, busy doing something in the kitchen. She turned. I was just about to wake you up, she said. She wore an apron, smiling at him, totally composed. Seriously, it was like last night's massive blowout never even happened. I cleaned the entire house, even disinfected it. Now, if this were the past, James would have definitely pretended to ignore those muddy water streaks she left on the floor. From her awful mopping, he would have showered her with praise, feeding her ego, but now he just let out a dry, dumbfounded laugh with a totally deadpan, "Oh." Hearing his lukewarm response, Olivia looked pretty disappointed, but she quickly forced a smile and brought out 2 plates of breakfast. I just made this. Try it. James glanced down. 2 cheese sandwiches. They actually looked decent enough, honestly. This was probably the first time Olivia had ever cooked breakfast for him. It should have been touching, but she totally seemed to have forgotten that James was severely allergic to cheese. Olivia's expression shifted. She hurriedly turned around to make something else. "Stop wasting your time," he said. "A peaceful breakup is best for both of us. At the year-end party, I clearly remember you knowing Hunter hates lamb, ginger, and cilantro. Yet you completely forgot I ate cheese once and ended up in the ER with a massive allergic reaction. It is pretty obvious who you actually love here." Olivia obviously didn't see it that way. She just frowned in pure frustration. "Couples don't hold grudges overnight, James. I've already lowered myself to do all this for you. Why be so picky? Besides, I am swamped with company business every single day. Isn't it normal to mix up a few ingredients?" He nodded. "Breaking up is also completely normal." Olivia finally snapped. She slammed the tray onto the table with a massive bang, glaring at him furiously before finally losing whatever tiny patience she had left. She stormed out, slamming the heavy door behind her. Boom, the official start of their Cold War. James sighed helplessly, called a professional cleaning service anyway, and started packing up all of Olivia's things. He shipped them straight to that suburban house of hers whenever she traveled on business. James was the guy packing her bags, so this didn't take very long at all. The house handover went perfectly on time, and Olivia, she seemed to finally realize his breakup was not just some empty threat. She texted him, but after receiving absolute silence from James, she started aggressively posting pictures with Hunter on her social media. James was busy settling into his new job, so he didn't even notice until checking notifications from his own starred contacts. Now stick with me here, because today she posted pictures of her and Hunter at a safari park. The next day, them in a hot air balloon. Then she posted about her company hitting an $8 million milestone and rewarding Hunter with a luxury trip to Bali. In these photos, she purposely showed off the matching couple rings on their middle fingers, literally captioned, "The one who is truly loved has the right to be arrogant, but little do people know that child who stays quiet deserves the candy the most." James knew exactly why she was doing this, just to trigger him, waiting for him to get insanely jealous and beg her to take him back. Then she could triumphantly list out a bunch of conditions for his return. Let's be real, did James care? Not at all. He almost exited the app when his thumb slipped. Double tap. He accidentally liked her post. Not wanting any of her drama, our MC instantly unliked it, then calmly removed her from his favorites and went straight back to work. Thanks to James, Ben's and company projects were rapidly skyrocketing. They actually even scored a massive deal worth tens of millions. The very day he and Ben were preparing to meet those clients to sign the contract, Olivia actually sent him a message, a random photo. Totally confused, he opened it up. Staring right back at James was an ultrasound scan with Olivia's name printed clearly. "How does this make you feel?" she texted immediately after. James gave absolutely zero reply. Olivia kept trying to bait him. "Just messing around. The report is completely fake, but ask yourself honestly, when you saw that, were you really not jealous? Can you actually accept me carrying some other guy's child?" James actually found this mildly hilarious. He had not realized it before, but reading her text, it finally hit him. Usually, if he saw her standing near some other guy, he would get furious, his face flushing, heart pounding, but now, looking at himself in the mirror, his expression was completely deadpan. Even the tiny little heart rate monitor on his smart watch proved it. The thought of Olivia belonging to someone else, he totally accepted it. James originally planned on ignoring her entirely, but remembering Hunter's incredibly smug taunts, he just could not be bothered to handle more of their daily nonsense. He decided to text back, "Since you have a new boyfriend right now, you should really stop discussing things with absolute zero boundaries. Your new man might get the wrong idea." Minutes after James sent that, the typing indicator just flashed on and off forever before she finally replied, "Keep on pretending, James. We will see exactly how long you keep this act up. If you truly don't love me anymore, why do you even care so much? I know for a fact you secretly liked my recent post." James genuinely chuckled at that. Back then, Olivia never paid this much attention to him or those little details. It really seemed her time with Hunter had officially changed her personality. She refused to change for James in 5 long years. But she totally changed for that guy. Before James could reply, another message popped up. Look, honestly, nothing happened between me and Hunter recently. He just agreed to play along with my plans so we could finally get back together. Out of sheer respect, I am giving you one last chance. She probably thought our MC would come begging and crawling back after her pathetic little provocations, but whatever, give it enough time and she would eventually figure out the cold truth. James was permanently done. He also knew perfectly well that she wasn't clinging to him out of true love. She was absolutely terrified that if news of their messy breakup leaked out, people would gossip. Flirting with Hunter was one thing, but actually dumping her fiancé for him, total PR nightmare. James ignored her completely and went right back to focusing on his career. That very night, they successfully closed the massive deal. Ben was ecstatic. Stick with me. He dragged James to dinner with several shot industry CEOs. The exact moment they walked inside, Ben proudly introduced our MC as his partner. The CEOs instantly treated him with total respect. James was honestly extremely flattered. Back in the past, whenever he attended these dinners alongside Olivia, she always treated him like some lowly employee who forgot his proper place. Eventually, all those big CEOs stopped respecting James entirely, even treating him like some worthless errand boy to go buy them cigarettes, but he honestly could not blame them. He was the guy who let her treat him that way. After a few rounds of drinks, James and the guys were getting along famously. Out of nowhere, one of the CEOs lowered his voice and asked him, "James, did you piss someone off? I just noticed you're on the industry blacklist." Fearing James wouldn't believe him, the CEO pulled up the file on his phone. It was an internal industry database designed to help companies avoid bad hires. Management shared a blacklist of individuals with severe character flaws or criminal records. Boom, James had his name and photo plastered right there. The reasons listed: insubordination, inability to cooperate with colleagues, and overly aggressive. Terrible character. You and I already know who pulled this stunt, right? Seeing his silence, the CEO said without hesitation, "I know you're not that kind of guy. Someone is definitely screwing with you. Don't worry, I'll wipe your name off right now." He deleted James's file on the spot. He was incredibly grateful, but he couldn't help but smile bitterly. It was fine for him because he had a friend to back him up. But what about a normal job seeker once on this list? How are they supposed to survive? This blacklist might save companies time, but nobody ever fact-checked it. Everyone just made decisions based entirely on prejudice. The innocent would only grow more desperate. Top-tier workers, after taking hit after hit, would eventually lose the courage to keep fighting. Tell me, what were they supposed to do? Seeing that they were deep in conversation, Ben threw his arm around their shoulders, dragging them back to keep drinking. When the dinner ended, Ben and James walked them to their cars. Ben stepped aside to call his girlfriend while James stood at the hotel entrance waiting for their driver. Not long after, a familiar voice called out behind him, "James, what are you doing here?" He turned around to see Hunter and Olivia standing a short distance away. Hunter's hand was resting squarely on Olivia's waist. They were glued together like some couple deeply in love. Seeing James, Hunter gave a smug smile and whispered loudly to Olivia, "CEO Olivia, I get it now. James must be here looking for you. You two talk, I'll step away for a bit." He pretended to walk away, but James could tell he had zero intention of actually leaving. Sure enough, Olivia just pulled him close, pressing him against her chest to show off their intimacy to James. "You're not an outsider. What's there to avoid?" She shot James a triumphant look. "I thought you didn't want this chance anymore, so what are you doing here?" She pointed a finger at him, "But let me tell you, it's too late. James, you're out of chances." Her bossy, commanding attitude with James was a stark contrast to her absolutely delicate, helpless bird routine with Hunter. I think you misunderstand. I was just here. Having dinner with a friend. I'm about to leave. Having dinner with a friend. Hunter barked a laugh. Wow, James, I really can't hold it in. I didn't realize that even after losing your job, you'd still be willing to splurge on a hotel like this just to eat with a friend. James heard the heavy mockery in his voice. He was implying James was putting on a pathetic front to save face. James, I never thought you'd sink this low. Olivia looked at him, her eyes adding a few layers of disgust. Seeing this, James didn't even want to bother explaining. Pointless. She wouldn't believe him anyway. Absolute waste of breath. His silence only made Olivia think he was guilty, proving Hunter right. She sneered, after leaving. Me, you definitely know how hard life is now, right? Regretting it yet, James found. Now watch this. James found it hilarious. Olivia had zero clue he worked at Ben's company. Honestly, not a shocker. She never once cared about his daily life anyway. Typical Olivia, staying clueless after the breakup was totally her style. Then she let out this massively dramatic sigh. I wasn't planning to forgive you, but hey, after everything we used to date, it is not like my feelings are completely dead for you. You chased me all the way out here to beg, so fine, you get one more shot, make it count. Hearing that absolute garbage, James just casually raised an eyebrow, glancing straight at Hunter. The other guy clearly had no idea Olivia would offer this. Pure panic flashed across his face, but he was too scared to say anything straight up. He choked it back, stammering out, "Wait, Olivia, you gotta think about this. Getting back with an ex is a terrible move." James almost cracked up. These two were entirely on different planets, but Olivia, she completely ignored the guy. Hunter forced a cold laugh, turning his focus to James. Look, James, all our friends have been begging Olivia not to get back with you. They said drop the dead weight. They all know you are totally beneath her. Now do you even realize how many guys begged her to dump you before? If she wasn't so blinded by dumb nostalgia, she never would have forgiven your mistakes over and over. I seriously do not get what you could possibly complain about, or what lies made you actually try to initiate a breakup. Literally everyone knows how lucky you were. You are the only idiot who missed that fact. Hunter just kept yapping. Sure, Olivia's bank account was way fatter than James's now, so she constantly flexed that huge power gap between them. She kept him around for nostalgia, straight-up charity, and pure pity. Everything except, real love. James used to think she was just venting in the heat of arguments. You and I both know she meant every single word. He was just about to fire back when Ben's voice finally cut through the tension. James. Who are these two? The boss was finally here. James breathed a massive sigh. After a quick thought, he answered, just former colleagues, bumped into them by chance. See, last time they hung out, she completely refused to introduce James as her boyfriend, called him a colleague instead. He figured she would be super happy with that exact title now. Who knew her face would twist into pure rage? I haven't officially canceled our wedding yet, she snapped. Then she glared right at Ben. I am the friend he came to eat with. Honestly, she just looked totally furious. Hunter jumped right in to save face. He chuckled, looking over at Ben. Wow, had no clue James knew someone who could actually afford to buy him dinner. Here, looks like you have some cash. What do you do? Who employs you? Ben frowned, leaning in to mutter at James. Why does this dude sound like he lacks basic brain cells? James flashed a faint smile. It happens, you get used to it. Ben dropped it, but he clearly sensed Hunter was fishing for trouble, so he replied calmly, just run a small business. Definitely wouldn't call myself rich. Just getting by. Hunter instantly looked incredibly smug, scoffing with his eyes full of pure contempt for Ben. Business is brutal nowadays, must be real hard work. Right, that hard-earned cash really shouldn't be wasted here. Ben immediately picked up on the blatant disrespect. Instead of taking the bait, he whispered to James, what is the deal here? You got beef with this clown? James didn't hide a thing, in a voice only. All right, watch this. Keeping his voice low, James said, that woman, my ex-fiancé, and He's her current boyfriend. Ben already knew all about James's messy history, how they built that startup together. When James joined Ben's team, he didn't hide the fact they broke up or the ugly reasons why. Ben just let out a loud, mocking laugh. Turning straight to Hunter, well, based on what you're saying, your cash clearly isn't hard-earned. What exactly do you do? Looking at your whole vibe, you don't seem like a guy with a real career. Let me guess, you just leech off women. Hunter completely exploded. He nearly lunged at Ben, but Olivia grabbed his arm. Stop messing around, James. I'm not in the mood for jokes. I know exactly what you care about, I promise. If you just come back, I will completely restore your position in the company and hand you an extra 10% in shares. Happy now? 10%, Ben burst out laughing. Sorry, I already poached him for my company. I gave him 40%. Olivia totally froze, but then she just sneered at James. James, have you really thought this through? Companies are definitely not equal in power. Percentages mean absolutely nothing if the company itself is garbage. She was totally implying that Ben's company was light years behind hers. Honestly, back at the very beginning, Ben's startup was lagging behind, but the absolute biggest difference was their tech. Right now, their technology was peaking, and James's team had just secured a $100 million project. Ben's company was easily a league above Olivia's. Plus, you and I know her company wouldn't survive much longer in the current market anyway, with her awful management style and her completely blind favoritism toward Hunter. It was only a matter of time before everything imploded, but James didn't even bother saying it. She wouldn't listen anyway, and Ben didn't bother arguing with her either. Is the car here yet? He asked James nonchalantly, completely icing Olivia out. James was just about to check the app when a guy in a chauffeur's uniform jogged right over. Boss, I'm the designated driver you called. Where's the car? My uniform's pretty flashy. I'd rather just drive yours. Ben gestured toward James. Not thinking much of it, James tossed the driver the keys. Barely 2 minutes later, he clumsily pulled up in that top-tier Porsche, parking it right in front of James. Boss, this car is insane. Must have cost an absolute fortune, right? The driver marveled. James was stunned. He turned to look at Hunter. The guy's eyes were practically glowing, staring hungrily at the car. Olivia looked deep in thought, clearly trying to process everything. She just looked incredibly grim. Ben just smirked at James. Not that expensive, just over $2 million company bonus. Oh, by the way, Ben continued, turning to the driver. My brother here is actually looking for a full-time driver, since you guys hit it off. Interested in the gig, 20 grand a month. I'd be honored, the driver eagerly replied. Are you serious? Of course. If you don't believe me, I'll send you the contract right now. I promise I'll do a great job. Ben and the driver chatted happily. Olivia stood off to the side, glaring daggers at James before turning on her heel and storming away. Hunter quickly scrambled right after her. Meanwhile, Ben and the driver finalized that contract on the spot. James was a bit surprised. Did you actually just sign him? Duh, that was the plan all along. You're our core tech guy. You're going to be out networking and drinking a lot. You can't just keep calling random designated drivers. But isn't the salary a bit too high? You and I know that was way above market rates. His salary was barely $15,000. Ben totally expected the question, just calmly patting his shoulder. Not high at all, because when you are blackout drunk, this designated driver holds your life in his hands. Seeing Ben's mind was totally made up, James didn't argue. For the next while, they threw themselves entirely into the new project. During his rare moments of downtime, James noticed that Olivia, who previously posted status updates constantly, had gone totally silent. Even Hunter was being quiet, no longer trying to provoke him. He figured Ben's little stunt had severely bruised their huge egos. James thought that after that crazy incident, Olivia would finally just give up and cut ties with him, but to everyone's surprise, while they were heavily pushing the whole project forward, Ben suddenly walked up to him. With a totally mysterious look, he said, Olivia just Called me before James could ask a thing. Ben looked at him seriously. She's definitely going to come looking for you soon. Whatever you choose, I will support. You do not worry about anything here. Of course, I personally hope you do not. Waver, dropping that highly cryptic message, Ben just walked away, leaving our guy totally confused, but James didn't overthink it and went straight back to work. It wasn't until noon that he finally received a call from Olivia. The moment he answered, she wasn't aggressive like before. Instead, there was just a super rare silence. It was so quiet he thought she had hung up, but the screen showed the call was still connected. Stop messing around. Can we just call a truce and make peace? Finally, Olivia's slightly hoarse voice came through the phone speaker. James found it completely laughable. Did she seriously still think he was just messing around? He didn't say a single thing. Olivia continued, I just called your friend. He said back then he wanted you to co-found his entire company, but you firmly chose me instead. I never realized you sacrificed so much for me. I admit, ever since Hunter joined the company, I have neglected you a lot, but we have been together for 5 years. We were planning wedding. Is our relationship really going to end over these last 10 months? Her voice completely choked up as if she couldn't get the words out. She paused. Now pay attention. Remembering those past 5 years, they lived simply but relied on each other, encouraging each other through brutal hardships, holding hands to safely weather all the storms. Once, to secure an investment, James was forced to drink 3 entire bottles of hard liquor. By the end, he could not even stand. Right before blacking out, he saw Olivia crying, holding him up, and desperately calling for an ambulance. When he woke up in that hospital, seeing her frail figure, it was hard to imagine how she managed to drag him to the ambulance. He was hospitalized for 7 days. She juggled company work while taking care of him. Back then, James thought she truly loved him. Memories flooded back fast. James was just about to say something when Hunter's super annoying voice suddenly came through the phone speaker. James, please forgive CEO Olivia. I am sorry my presence these past few days caused a misunderstanding, but I really have no other intentions here. If I make things worse, I will resign tomorrow. I'll never appear in front of you again. Olivia didn't stop him, silently agreeing with his little act. James felt incredibly complicated. Hearing this garbage, we both know how he felt. His relationship violently sliced wide open, making him the third wheel intruding on them. What would breaking up or Hunter resigning even accomplish now? If he left, Hunter would forever become. Hunter was Olivia's untouchable, tragic first love. Their hidden feelings for each other would only grow stronger. Stick with me, it explodes with more intensity later. James just let out a dry laugh. He agreed, but on one single condition. Name it, Olivia demanded, sounding like a totally triumphant hero. Marching toward victory, James just smirked. He wanted exactly half the company's shares plus half of every asset in her name. James knew perfectly well she would never actually agree. Did she seriously not realize that her massive wealth and assets were the only reason Hunter was even with her in the first place? Sure enough, nearly 5 full minutes of dead silence dragged on the line. Finally, Hunter couldn't hide his fake righteous anger. James, your demand is entirely outrageous. Olivia is a woman who built this massive empire from absolutely nothing. It was not easy, and with just one sentence, you want to steal half her assets. You are a man, aren't you completely ashamed? James couldn't even be bothered to expose the gold digger's true motives. He casually replied to Olivia, we are adults. Here you win some, you lose some. You really want to get everything you desire, but you refuse to lose a single thing. Why should you get to have your cake and eat it too? He warned her to think carefully about what to choose. He gave her 3 days, then hung up immediately. He figured she would give up, but that same evening she called right back. Half was too much. Could she offer 20%? James told her point blank, half means half, not 1 penny less. If she could not do it, stop calling. Now you and I know this is puzzling. Olivia clearly did not want to split up, but wait, wasn't she the one who wanted to break things off in the first place. Back at the hotel, she claimed she was afraid people would overthink things, but James was the actual one who initiated the breakup. Plus that excuse just was not strong enough to make her act this desperate. James didn't dwell on it's 3 days passed, and Olivia never contacted him. The big project was finally wrapping up, and they successfully passed the final review. Ben invited everyone out to a massive celebration dinner. They partied hard, and by the time James got home, it was the dead of night. He had just showered and was about to crash into bed when his phone suddenly rang. It was Olivia. Totally annoyed his precious sleep was being interrupted, he meant to decline the call, but he was still a little tipsy, and his vision was blurry. He accidentally hit answer. "Hello, are you CEO Olivia's current boyfriend? Miss Olivia is completely drunk at our establishment and refuses to go home. We found your number in her phone. We are worried something bad might happen to her. Could you please come pick her up?" James sobered up a bit. "Sorry, please find someone else, but Miss Olivia is loudly insisting that you have to come get her. She warned if you do not come and something happens to her, you will be held completely responsible." The guy on the phone sounded so panicked, James actually laughed out loud. He sat up. "All right, send me the location." The club worker sounded incredibly relieved. Quickly added his number and sent a map pin. James glanced at it, dialed the police, gave the cops the location, muted his phone, and get this, he went to sleep. When he finally woke up, he saw Olivia had called over 10 times and sent dozens of angry texts. They ranged from pure shock that he had called the cops to furious messages calling him a cold-blooded monster who only cared about cold hard cash and had absolutely no heart. By the end, she had completely broken down, begging why he was treating her like this. She claimed it was just a tiny mistake that anyone could make. She swore she never actually cheated on him and fiercely demanded to know why our MC was being so heartless. Before he even finished reading those texts, she called again. He decided to answer and lay everything out on the table. He knew if he ignored it, she would never stop harassing him. He hit except Olivia's hoarse, totally wrecked voice came through the speaker. "James, I've thought it through. I admit you win. I can't leave you. Half the shares, they're yours. Half my assets also yours. Just come back." But James just glanced at the date. Day 5. "Sorry, the 3 days are up. I changed my mind." Olivia tried to speak, but suddenly broke into a totally violent coughing fit. After a long minute, the coughing stopped. Her voice sounded completely wrecked. "How did you get like this?" James laughed silently. "Wasn't this exactly how she used to act? She constantly used the excuse that he had missed a deadline to dock his bonuses and salary, and then hand his projects right over to Hunter. Our guy was just giving her a taste of her own medicine. Poetic justice. It hurts when you're the one getting stabbed." Olivia seemed to catch his meaning, and she finally realized that his goal was never actually her assets. She let out a bitter, self-deprecating laugh. "I don't even recognize you anymore." She started coughing violently again, her breathing heavy. She sounded like she was in serious pain. James was about to ask what was wrong, but he stopped himself, worried she might misinterpret it as him still caring. He decided to stay completely quiet, but she seemed to know exactly what he was thinking. She started talking to herself. "I have a fever, James. I'm at our house right now. I bought it back not long ago. I just want to know, back when you had us fever and I wasn't there, did you feel as miserable as I do right now?" He didn't answer her. She kept going. "The paintings, all the paintings you drew for me, they're gone. I searched the whole house and couldn't find them." "James, did you hide them or did you throw them away?" She was rambling like a total child, her voice trembling and growing incredibly pitiful. James heard rustling on the other end. She was probably tearing the house apart looking for them. He just sighed. "I burned them, their ashes." She let out a sharp laugh, which abruptly cut right off. Soft sob came through the speaker. "This house, every single corner is filled with memories of our life together, but I can't find a single trace of us actually living here. How could you be so cruel? You sold the house and scrubbed it Completely clean, you left so decisively. What am I supposed to do now? That suburban house, I already took Hunter's name off it. I just want to make things right. Why won't you give me a chance to make it right? Her crying grew louder, her voice completely hoarse. If this were the past, his heart would have broken. He couldn't stand seeing her upset or suffering back then. But now, James knew perfectly well she wasn't crying because she felt guilty. Come on, she was just emotionally fragile because she was sick. If given a redo, she would still make the exact same choices. Stop trying. Call Hunter and tell him to take you to the hospital. I have to go to work. Hanging up, he didn't entertain her any further and just ended the call. When James decided to let go, he never intended to look back. Whether she lived a good or terrible life now had absolutely nothing to have to do with him. He washed up and drove straight to the company. Walking in, he instantly noticed a crazy festive vibe. Before he could even ask why, Ben grabbed his arm, totally hyped. Their first project officially launched 2 hours in and they already hit 80 million views. The client was absolutely thrilled. They decided to sign a long-term contract with them. Now, this client was an absolute industry giant, locking down a permanent deal with them. Completely unbelievable. So that very month, Ben handed the whole project team a massive raise, boosting everyone's morale right through the roof. Our guy took that bonus, his savings and the cash from selling his house and bought a new place. This time, he picked a spot strictly for himself, way out from the city center, sitting right next to a massive lake. The view from that window, absolutely gorgeous. He spent his free time sketching out interior design plans. Remember, he designed his old house entirely by himself. Back then, Olivia despised other people's designs, and he just happened to know exactly what she wanted. He took a 2-month design course, surviving her constant complaints and endless revisions just to finally nail down the look of that place. Honestly, that house was perfectly customized to fit Olivia's exact tastes, so when she mentioned buying it back, he didn't think she was feeling nostalgic. He just figured she bought it because it was comfortable. Now he was finally building a comfortable space for himself. After finishing up those blueprints, he handed them straight to a reliable contractor. After work, he would drop by, check the progress, and lend a hand. But after days of running around like crazy, his body gave out. One day, heading upstairs, he tripped and totally fractured his leg. While recovering, he had to stop visiting the site. Ben told him to rest up, promising to watch over the construction himself. But honestly, our MC was just too excited to see his finished house. Today, after work, he could not resist anymore and drove straight to the property. But the second he pulled into the garage, a familiar figure stood right next to a car. It was Olivia. Wearing a trench coat and mask, she looked incredibly haggard compared to before, dark circles heavy under her eyes. He paused for just a second before stepping up. What are you doing here? Honestly, he was not surprised she tracked him down. Her network was massive. Digging up a single piece of information took zero effort for her. In the past, she was simply too lazy to waste any energy on him. I need to talk. Her voice sounded completely raspy, like she was still fighting off a bad sickness. Let's talk inside the car. I heard you bought a new place. I wanted to help. No need, just say what you came to say right here. He totally rejected her. She actually expected this reaction. She kept her emotions completely in check, though a flash of deep sorrow flickered across her eyes. She handed him a heavy file folder. This is your compensation. I admit, for the past 5 years I owe you. I owe you everything at the company and at home. You sacrificed it all, and I failed to repay you in time. Just take this contract. Consider it my ultimate payback for those 5 years. From now on, I will never bother you again. He paused, taking the file from her. Inside was a detailed log of every single time she unfairly fined him at work, every time she stole his proposals, and massive compensation for all his stripped bonuses. Every single amount was totally doubled. It even included extra compensation for every single time she had wronged James over the last 5 years. At the very back, a bank card. The pin was actually James's birthday. He couldn't help but study Olivia's face. He honestly had no idea if this was some new manipulative game or if she had finally given up. "You said you won't bother me again," James said. "I hope you mean it." Olivia seemed to read his mind. She replied totally flatly, "I've thought it through. It's time for me to move on." "Good." James just nodded and didn't refuse. He packed the file and card away. These things rightfully belonged to him anyway. Plus, he knew perfectly well that only by accepting this would Olivia finally realize that things were permanently over between them. Sure enough, when James grabbed the file, a heavy flash of loss crossed her eyes. But she quickly buried it. "So, can I see your new house? I know I haven't been doing great since leaving you. I just want to see how you're surviving without me." Now you and I know this was a pathetic excuse, a stubborn attachment, but James knew her personality too well. Once Olivia decided on something, she literally had to do it. Otherwise, she would never drop it. James didn't want any more messy lingering ties, since they were never going to see each other again anyway. Giving this a completely clean ending was for the absolute best. "Let's go," James said, heading for his car, but after just a few steps, Olivia suddenly darted right in front of him, trying to lead him in a totally different direction. "Let me drive you. Your leg is hurt. It's not safe for you to drive." James didn't refuse, though he was genuinely surprised she remembered his leg. If this were the old days, he'd be thrilled, but you and I know they could never go back. Late appreciation is completely worthless. James just stayed totally silent and followed her to her car. He opened the passenger door to get inside, but sitting right there on the seat was a little plush doll. It was carefully strapped in with the seat belt. Attached to it was a literal name tag reading Hunter, with a small footnote: "Whenever I'm not around, let this doll keep Olivia company." It even had a little winking emoji beside it. Olivia had clearly forgotten this thing was here. Seeing it now, she looked incredibly embarrassed. "It's fine, I'll just sit in the back," James said, voluntarily stepping back to close the door, but Olivia stopped him, violently ripping that stupid doll out of the seatbelt and throwing it hard into the backseat. Her sudden, aggressive motion caught James totally off guard. Hunter had always loved secretly showing off like this. He'd wear Olivia's hair tie on his wrist or leave trinkets with his name scattered around her office. Sometimes his random stuff would literally just accidentally end up in their house. That kid seized every single opportunity to make James jealous, actively trying to force him to back down. At first, James didn't understand his twisted game. He'd fight with Olivia, even furiously throwing the kid's things away. But one time, Olivia slapped James right across the face. "Are you crazy, James? He is young and naive, but he means well. I just keep him around so he doesn't get discouraged. Why are you so insanely jealous? Do you know how pathetic and petty you look right now?" James was totally devastated that time, but he slowly started to realize this was exactly what Hunter wanted. He wanted James to just voluntarily quit. "You don't need to do that," James told Olivia calmly. "We have absolutely nothing to do with each other anymore anyway. Even if his stuff is here, it doesn't matter to me." Olivia bit her lip hard. "I know you don't believe me, and I know what you're thinking, but I can tell you right now, even if we break up, I am never getting with Hunter. All right, you and I are witnessing pure gaslighting. I have no feelings for him," Olivia insists. She claims looking at Hunter just reminds her of how James used to be, alone and helpless. James just laughs mockingly, a speech that incredibly self-righteous, hilarious. Sure, maybe our MC would buy it, but did she completely forget the harsh reality? While she showers Hunter with compassion, James is the one left stranded. Her excuses are completely pointless now. James turns around, completely done with this toxic drama. He glances at Olivia, realizing Hunter is actually watching them, but before James speaks, crash, a loud clatter echoes behind them as a metal thermos hits the floor. Hunter's voice rings out, sounding perfectly heartbroken. "Olivia, weren't you sick? Why are you here? James turns around. Hunter is standing completely frozen a few feet away. He looks absolutely shocked and totally devastated, down at his feet. That dropped thermos lies dented, hot porridge spilling everywhere into a pathetic mess. James watches, genuinely wondering if this guy is actually hurt or just performing. He checks Olivia's reaction. For one split second, she panics, looking caught. Caught cheating, but boom, she instantly snaps back to her usual icy CEO demeanor. James just finds it hilarious, her whole speech about feeling nothing for Hunter. Pure delusion, deep down the CEO is totally compromised. Why are you here? She asks. Her voice is dangerously calm. Hunter looks so terribly wronged. You were so sick. A few days ago, your face was swollen. I was worried sick. I made this porridge. Just to take care of you, but when I reached your apartment, I saw you leaving. I was so worried that I followed you here, but seeing this right now. I guess I do not need to say anything. He squats down, looking utterly defeated. Now watch this guy. He cleans the dented thermos, acting like he suffered a massive emotional blow. Olivia's cold expression finally cracks. She looks like she desperately wants to explain, but Hunter cuts her off. I understand everything. I really hope you and James get back together. It is only right that you treat him well. I was just being immature. You two go ahead. I will leave. As he speaks, he specifically glances right at the plush doll violently. Thrown into the backseat, then he lowers his head, cleaning the spilled porridge. Watching him act so painfully understanding, Olivia seems to be fighting a massive internal battle. She takes one step forward, then stops, head back. First, I will have someone. No need. Hunter shakes his head defensively. CEO Olivia, do not worry about me. I am not a little child who needs babysitting. Anymore, when you were sick, I took care of you. I can clean up my mess. Mentioning how he cared for her, a heavy wave of guilt washes right over Olivia's face. Still, she forces herself to look away. Get in the car, she orders James. He refuses, ignoring the open door. I will drive myself. Go comfort him right now. We are already broken up. Do not put on a fake show in front of me. The second James drops that reality check, genuine shock flashes in the manipulator's eyes. He looks at them, his voice dripping with fake innocence. You guys broke up. Why? James, are you still mad at me? Did I interrupt something? This has absolutely nothing to do with you. We ended it amicably, Olivia says, turning to look at James. I promised to take you to see the house. No matter what, I am absolutely keeping my promise. The second those words drop, Hunter suddenly cries out and collapses right to the ground, dramatically clutching his chest. Classic move. Something's wrong. Olivia's face drops. Pale as a ghost, she instantly sprints over and helps Hunter up, her eyes pure panic. Hunter's just lying there on the ground, totally silent. Olivia is losing her mind right now, practically dragging him straight toward the car. Right before she shoves him into the back seat, it hits her. She suddenly remembers our MC is standing right there. She gives him this hesitant look. He knows exactly what she's thinking. A life matters more. Get him to a doctor. Olivia bites her lip, finally making her choice. Wait at your new place, she says. Once I get him to the hospital, I'll find you. And just like that, she bundles Hunter into the car, jumps into the driver's seat, and floors it. Watching her speed away, our guy feels completely calm. Not sure if Olivia noticed, but you and I can tell it was incredibly obvious that Hunter is totally faking this. But hey, it's none of his business anymore, right? He's about to head to his new place when Ben suddenly calls. Turns out their second project just went massively viral, pulling in a huge fan base online. Now, several foreign tech giants want to negotiate massive partnerships with them. Ben tells the MC to pack immediately and fly overseas with him for a business trip. He agrees without a second thought and drives straight to the airport. This schedule, brutally sudden. The moment they land, the guys throw themselves into organizing proposals and prepping translations. They didn't know much about these foreign companies, so to avoid getting completely crushed, they have to cram constantly. They map out every single advantage their company has. Ben and our MC are so busy they're sleeping 4 hours a day. Sometimes he literally falls asleep. Standing up, thankfully, all that crazy hustle pays off. After the final meeting, the translator drops the news. The clients are deeply impressed by their thorough prep and flawless execution. They agree to the partnership. Ben is so hyped he practically tackles our guy in a massive hug. That night, they finally get a good night of sleep. He hasn't checked his phone in days. Only now does he see a mountain of unread messages and missed calls from Olivia, dating back to when he first arrived overseas. She says she went to his new place and asks why he wasn't there. He genuinely didn't expect her to actually go looking for him. After all, anytime Hunter had some fake crisis before, she completely abandoned him. Our MC thinks about it and decides to ignore her. It's been days. She probably doesn't care anymore anyway. Besides, they are done. Talking about this is completely pointless. Ben and our MC spend a couple of days hitting up local tourist spots before finally flying back home. By the time they land, it's pitch black. They part ways and head to their own places. He just collapses onto his large, comfortable bed when violent banging echoes from the front door. The sound is incredibly loud in the empty hallway, like somebody is trying to smash the door down in a total rage. Thinking some absolute psycho is breaking in, he stomps over and rips the door open. Before he can even blink, a figure lunges right at him. He couldn't dodge in time, getting shoved hard into the wall. A heavy stench of alcohol, mixed with a very familiar perfume, hits his nose. If it isn't Olivia, who else could it possibly be? He feels a total wave of exhaustion. Why are you here? Didn't we make it crystal clear that we are completely done with each other? Olivia lets out this messy, drunken hiccup. Done with each other. Hunter and I are officially together now. Are you happy? She stares at him with lost, desperate. She stared into his eyes, definitely hoping to see pain, jealousy, or literally any emotion. But James just disappointed her again. Her ending up with Hunter was entirely expected. Stick with me here. He honestly did not care. Why are you here, middle of the night, completely wasted? Does your boyfriend even know? I will call him to get you. James didn't want any more drama. He pulled out his phone to call Hunter, but Olivia suddenly went totally feral, snatching the device right from his hand and violently hurling it out the door. It smashed against the floor, shattering instantly. Do you really feel absolutely nothing at all? She screamed. Do you know I waited at that house all night, and you just stood me up? You even flew out of the country to hide. She let out a totally deranged laugh, pointing a shaking finger at him as she swayed. James, you are a liar. I deeply regret ever being with you. If I knew you were this cold, I would have dumped you from the very start. She was shrieking like an absolute maniac. James was worried she would wake up the neighbors, but he also feared that shutting the door meant things would escalate. Thankfully, Hunter came running right up the stairs at that exact moment. He shot James a venomous glare, then instantly switched right to his pathetic, whimpering persona as he grabbed Olivia by the arm. Olivia, you drank way too much tonight. Let me take you home, okay? Seeing Hunter, she seemed to regain a fraction of her ego and calmed down slightly, but she gave James one last deep look before turning around, letting Hunter support her weight as they both slowly walked downstairs. After that chaotic night, James rarely heard any news about Olivia. Occasionally, Hunter posted those sickly sweet couple photos online, but usually within just minutes those posts would vanish. Soon after that, his entire account just went completely dead. We all know karma never misses. Olivia's company was heavily struggling because she neglected her management duties. The whole place fell right into internal chaos. To make matters worse, Hunter started abusing his power and bullying the staff, leading to a massive exodus of employees. Olivia desperately tried to stop the bleeding, but it was way too late. A few former colleagues actually reached out to Ben and James. They were engineers who used to work on James's team. Ben and James gladly took them in. Through them, James heard much more about Olivia's messy situation. Apparently, she and Hunter Just fought constantly now. Sometimes they would scream at each other right in the middle of the busy office. At first, Hunter would apologize, but after a few times he started slamming desks and yelling right back at her. Once, things got so wildly out of hand that Hunter secretly altered a business proposal right before it went to a client, causing the company to lose hundreds of thousands of dollars. Absolutely furious, Olivia fired him on the spot, but amazingly, they were still living together, and their relationship was only getting more toxic. James even spotted them once at a hospital. They had clearly gotten into a massive physical altercation. Even his former colleagues felt pretty bad for her. James just felt incredibly lucky that he had stayed rational and cut his losses early on. The Olivia he saw now was completely unrecognizable from the ambitious woman he once knew. Her company was a sinking ship. If James had not jumped ship when he did, he would probably be trapped in that endless cycle of misery with them. But let us be real, Olivia walked this dark path entirely herself. Her success was her own doing, and her epic downfall was all her own doing. She chose the wrong path, refusing to turn back. Meanwhile, Ben's thriving company was business was exploding. James and his team just locked down another huge contract. You and I love a good comeback story, right? James and Ben started talking expansion. They were perfectly aligned, but after weighing all the risks, they decided to hold off. These two debated for days, constantly challenging each other's ideas, but Ben was totally different from Olivia. He actually wasn't blindly stubborn. Back when James used to have work conflicts with Olivia, she would absolutely insist on doing things her way. Right or wrong didn't matter. If James didn't yield, the whole project would just completely stall. But Ben, he actually listened, analyzed, and offered constructive pushback. Their fierce disagreements only made their strategies stronger. Later that day, after an intense brainstorming session, James finally came home completely exhausted. His new spot was fully furnished. He just soaked in the bathtub, letting the heavy stress melt away. He was pondering their next business move when his phone suddenly rang. He dried his hands and grabbed it. The caller ID, said Olivia. James raised a skeptical eyebrow. They had not seen each other half a year, not since Hunter dragged her from his apartment. Sure, sometimes they would cross paths at industry events. James would just give a quick nod and walk away, but every single time he felt Hunter's malicious, burning glare piercing his back. James got the typical boyfriend hostility toward an ex, but after all this time, Hunter had everything he wanted, so why was he still holding a massive grudge? Wondering what she wanted, James finally answered the phone. James, a pipe burst in my house. Can you come help me fix it? Her tone was raspy, like she had literally just finished crying. James found this incredibly strange. Why call him for this? In the past, if something broke, James would absolutely drop everything to run home and fix it, but they were fully broken up now. Her calling him was completely inappropriate. James stayed completely silent for a few seconds before Olivia spoke again. Hunter and I broke up 2 days ago. I fired him from the company. We haven't spoken since. James was genuinely surprised before he could even ask anything. She sobbed. I tried calling a plumber, but it's too late. James, I know you don't want to see me right now, but I am totally out of options. It's so late, I don't know who else to call. She let out 2 dry coughs. Olivia sounded completely desperate. Through the phone, James could hear wild wind howling in the background. His instincts immediately kicked in. Something was not right. Where are you right now? It took her incredibly long to answer. Memories rushed back to when they first started the company. Due to one terrible strategic mistake, their whole business took a massive hit. Olivia suffered a complete mental breakdown. In the middle of the night, she wrote a tragic suicide note and climbed the window ledge. Luckily, James found her in time, or the consequences would have been absolutely unthinkable. He really thought she had grown more rational since then, but clearly she was still capable of doing something really stupid. If James hadn't known, he would have ignored it, but knowing she might be in real danger, he couldn't just stand by. Stick with me here, he sighed. Wait for me. James quickly threw on some clothes and drove straight back to that painfully familiar neighborhood. When he finally opened the door, he saw Olivia's eyes were totally swollen from crying. A pipe had indeed burst, and the entire floor was flooded. James removed his shoes, walked in, and realized it was just a loose valve. He grabbed a heavy wrench, gave it a few tight turns, and boom, it was fixed. The waterproofing in this building was top-notch. James knew he didn't have to worry about water leaking down below. Just mop up the water, James told her, standing straight up, ready to walk out. But after barely 2 steps, a pair of arms suddenly wrapped right around his waist. From behind, "James, you still care about me, don't you? Because otherwise you wouldn't have even come. I am so sorry. I know I was completely wrong. Can we please just go back to normal?" Olivia cried against his back, but James, he struggled, prying her desperate hands right off him. "You misunderstand. I absolutely do not do charity work. The plumbing fee is $100, cash, Venmo, or Zelle." Olivia stared at him, lips trembling hard. Realizing he was dead serious, she quickly pulled out her phone, transferring him a flat $10,000. "Keep the change." James immediately sent the $9,900 right back, showing the screen. "We are even now." Even, Olivia muttered, echoing his exact words before letting out a super bitter laugh. James ignored her, walking straight out the door. Downstairs, he ran right into a stray cat. Taking that $100, he hit the convenience store next door and bought a sausage and fed it. Then he drove home. But you and I know Olivia had absolutely not let this go. A month after his new project officially launched, James received a massive lawsuit from Olivia's company, and the evidence, supposedly totally ironclad, alongside fake directives and forged bank transfers. They included a video from that exact night he went to fix her pipe. The footage was heavily edited, only showing the moments James was searching for tools, making it look like he was aggressively rummaging through her house. Olivia totally twisted the narrative, claiming he was hunting for confidential company documents. He honestly didn't know who actually leaked that video, but it completely exploded online because James's project was so insanely popular. Plenty of jealous competitors eagerly fanned the flames. The clueless public ate it right up. They dug straight into his employment history, saw he jumped from Olivia's company over to Ben's, compared the financial growth of both companies over the past year, and immediately concluded James had stolen core trade secrets. The internet mob came straight for him, demanding he be blacklisted from the industry forever. James was dragged into the police station. When he spotted Olivia there, her eyes aggressively avoided his, and he instantly understood everything. "You and Hunter never broke up, did you?" James asked coldly. "The person who actually stole the trade secrets and nearly bankrupted your entire company was Hunter. That night, you completely lied about this pipe bursting just so you could make me the fall guy for your scheme." He laid out his theory perfectly calmly. Now pay attention, because back at the apartment, James noticed several red flags: men's slippers by the door, a cigarette butt in the bathroom trash, and royal blue velvet curtains hanging up in the bedroom, a fabric Olivia absolutely despised. He didn't overthink it at the time, just assuming her taste had changed after being with Hunter. But now James clearly saw that some things never change. "James, I really didn't want to do this," Olivia said, her voice violently shaking. "But he is younger than you. He has so many opportunities left. I cannot let one moment of weakness ruin his entire life." "And what about my life?" James snapped back. "I'll be branded a thief forever. I stayed by your side for 5 years, helped you build your empire, and you just destroy me without a second thought." "Olivia, do you really not remember how I pulled you out of the mud?" Olivia flinched hard, her body instinctively shrinking right back. She came. Olivia grew up dirt poor. Her family cared only about having sons. The slightest mistake, that meant a harsh beating. Somehow, she still got accepted into college, but her greedy parents dragged her right back for a dowry payout. James spent every single penny of his savings to clear that debt. He basically bought her Freedom, right then, she held him close, sobbing. She swore they would rely on each other forever. Fast forward to now, she tossed James aside for some other guy. And to hide her new man's crimes, she literally pushed James off a cliff. He stared, clinging to one tiny sliver of hope, but then her red lips parted and she delivered the final blow with pure ice. Just consider. This my final debt to you. She turned away. James watched her walk off, and the last drop of love he had for her vanished completely. But you and I know the truth. The one going over that cliff wasn't him. It was her. 1 week later, court began. Ben's firm was huge, so the case went totally viral on a live stream. Olivia's lawyer showed their evidence, laying out a perfectly crafted, evil frame-up. Olivia sat there quiet, not even daring to look at James. Meanwhile, Hunter chilled. In the gallery, he had that classic smug smirk, acting like James getting a guilty verdict was basically guaranteed. But when Ben presented the hard evidence James had secretly prepared, both of those traitors froze. Ben played an audio recording. Crystal clear chat between Olivia and Hunter. The whole courtroom listened as their dirty little conspiracy got exposed. Everyone heard Hunter selling the corporate secrets for quick cash, losing a massive deal and triggering an absolute disaster of a contract penalty. On the tape, Hunter was literally sobbing. Olivia, I am still young and you are having my baby. Do you want our kid to grow up without a dad? I know I messed up. Hit me. You can yell at me, kill me even, but please do not leave. Then came the sharp sound of a heavy slap. Honestly, Hunter probably grabbed Olivia's hand and smacked his own face with it. Classic victim manipulation. Up in the gallery, Hunter's smug attitude totally vanished. He looked absolutely ghost white with sheer panic. He jumped out of his seat. No, impossible. That tape is totally fake. They edited it. He flailed around, rushing the stand to snatch the drive, but court guards slammed him down instantly. Fine, fine. I will help you, but this is the final time. Olivia's cold, sharp voice echoed through the speakers, sealing their doom. Watch the courtroom explode. Over in the live stream chat, viewers instantly switched sides. They started absolutely destroying Olivia and Hunter with pure rage. Hunter completely lost his mind. His eyes went bloodshot as he screamed, fighting the security guards violently, thrashing around, begging Olivia to fix this mess. She stood up slowly and walked right toward him. The guards saw her calm face and let her through. Hunter assumed she was coming to plot a backup plan. He let out a huge sigh of relief, his face lighting up as he frantically whispered, Olivia, hurry up and clear my name. Tell everyone the tape is fake. You need to be smart here. You and James are done anyway. Don't pity him. Before he could even finish talking, Olivia raised her hand and slapped him right across the face. With maximum power, her voice was pure ice, totally unwavering. The recording is real, I admit it. I purposely framed James just to protect Hunter. Everyone in that room heard it. The online chat completely exploded, screaming for both to face prison time. Hunter suffered an absolute, total psychological collapse, screaming like a cornered animal. He broke free and lunged straight at Olivia, trying to choke her out. Security tackled him fast, slamming his face hard against the floor. Olivia walked right over to James. She asked how he knew to prep a defense. Face completely calm, James told her the brutal truth. Not long after he left Ben actually caught wind of their trap and warned James to watch out. The night he went to fix her pipe, James knew it was a setup, but he went anyway to gather his own solid evidence. After their new project blew up, Ben and James actually planned to acquire her crumbling company, but they were just waiting for the perfect moment. By pulling this crazy stunt, she literally handed them the ultimate opportunity on a silver platter. James hesitated a bit initially, but her absolute ruthless behavior at the police station cemented his final decision. James spoke quietly, word by word. Olivia just smiled calmly. I see. Looking at that creepy smile, the hairs on the back of James's neck stood straight up. A sudden, blinding flash of light caught his eye. Olivia had a small blade concealed in her hand. Wait, James yelled out, but it was way too late. Olivia spun around with terrifying speed, lunging straight toward where Hunter was still pinned to the cold ground. In one swift, incredibly violent motion, she brought the blade down hard, a fatal swipe to the neck. Hunter's eyes flew wide and seconds later he lay totally motionless in a pool of red. The whole courtroom erupted into absolute sheer chaos. The guards never expected such extreme, sudden violence and were way too slow reacting. By the time they scrambled to disarm her, Olivia literally didn't even hesitate once. She turned the blade right on herself, slashing her own wrists. As she collapsed to the floor, she looked directly at James, smiling. He read her moving lips. James, this is the absolute last time I'll ever cause a mess for you. Ambulances arrived soon after. Both were rushed to the hospital. Hunter was officially declared dead on arrival. Olivia lost a terrifying amount of blood, but miraculously, somehow she was fully resuscitated. The baby, however, didn't survive. Upon recovery, she was immediately arrested for intentional homicide, convicted, and then sentenced to the absolute maximum penalty. After public opinion flipped entirely in James's favor, Ben ultimately abandoned the plan to acquire Olivia's ruined company. He agreed with James. It felt entirely unethical capitalizing on a tragedy like that. They decided to stick to their own path, growing their business empire step by step. Strangely enough, Olivia's lawyer contacted James a few weeks later. He revealed Olivia had actually drafted a will. She transferred every single remaining share and asset into James's name. Once she was gone, everything she owned was his to control entirely. James thought about it for a long time. Eventually, he rebranded her entire company and changed its whole business model. This new company was entirely dedicated to investigating the actual truth behind blacklisted employees, providing super affordable background check vindication for normal, hardworking people who had been completely smeared by vindictive bosses, standing up in the penthouse of his own successful company, looking out over the city. James knew the rest of his life would be smooth sailing. Epilogue time. Here is Olivia's perspective after the breakup. Every single day since then, Olivia lived in a constant state of anxiety and absolute crushing regret. She admitted she honestly pitied. Let's be real here. She favored Hunter, but the one she truly loved was always James. In her twisted logic, this was perfectly fine. Whenever Hunter nagged her about breaking up with James, she simply brushed the guy off, telling him to just wait. She honestly thought that no matter how long he held out, she would never actually dump James. 5 whole years together, she felt absolutely positive that James would never throw their entire history away. So, on the day James actually agreed to end things, she laughed it off. She figured he was just throwing a fit. It wasn't until she felt how freezing and distant he had actually become, until she stared into his eyes and found absolutely zero love left, that the sheer panic hit her hard. She frantically tried winning him back, but he shut her down completely. Hunter stepped in, smoothly claiming that guys understood guys perfectly. She blindly followed his advice, showing off their fake romance, sending that fake ultrasound photo, never realizing that these toxic little games only pushed James further and further away. And when James finally ghosted her and flew out of the country, she absolutely shattered. She just couldn't grasp why acting so pathetic was necessary for his attention. Then, in a blind, drunken rage, she officially agreed to date Hunter. When she heard James was back in town, she drank herself into oblivion, barely remembering a thing about that night. She only knew she searched for him before Hunter dragged her out. 1 month later, she realized she was legitimately pregnant, right as her company started imploding. She pulled insane all-nighters tracking down the data leaks, only to find out the rat destroying her life's work was Hunter. She completely collapsed. The guy groveled and begged on his knees. Insanely, despite it all, she felt a tiny sliver of pity and chose to cover for him. She figured that since James was already super successful, taking the fall wouldn't ruin his life. Forever, meanwhile, Hunter was still young and desperately needed a second chance. The night James came over to fix her pipe, he quietly took out her trash. She stood on her balcony, watching him crouch down in the dark to gently feed a stray cat. Right after James drove off, Hunter strolled back from down the street. He walked right up to the cat, paused for 2 seconds, and viciously kicked the poor animal while it ate. And you know what? That moment felt like pure lightning. Struck her brain, she finally saw it. Hunter was entirely rotten to his core. She also knew she had one final chance to fix this. Her entire life, she realized she had never actually done a single thing for James. Dragging Hunter down to hell with her was the only way left to finally atone for her sins.